Hello and welcome to our extended disc 15-minute webinar. Today we'll be talking about how S styles prefer to communicate. For those of you that have been along with us on this webinar series, we did the D style and we did the I style. This week is the S style, and we'll wrap it up with our 2020 webinars with C styles next week. But if you missed any of them, or if you would like to review this one or share it, we'll be recording it and it will be on our YouTube channel as well as our extendeddisc.org channel. My name is Christina Bowser and I am the training director here at Extended Disc, and joining me today is my wonderful colleague, Amy Lipinski. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Christina. It's great to be here and to see you.
It is, as always. While we encourage your questions, because it's 15 minutes, we'll try to take them live. And if not, please go ahead and just put them in the Q&A section, and we will follow up after the webinar is over. All right, Amy. So S styles. I think we're pretty expert on S styles, aren't we? Let's talk about S styles.
I'm slightly familiar with them. Yes. So when we think about our S styles, we always bring it back to the halves of our model, right? So my S styles are a people-focused kind of style, but they're on the reserve side. So we often describe them as being the steady eddies of our group. They're very calm, they're careful. They're going to use pronouns like we and us because it's a team effort, right? They're never going to toot their own horns. It's always, we did it together. When we think about their communication style, it's often just one way. They prefer to be the listeners of our styles. And so they prefer everybody else to talk, and they can just kind of hang out and listen. And they're often are very good listeners. They smile and nod, and they encourage you to continue to speak. Their environments, they're going to want a little bit slower pace. Remember, there are reserve styles. So they kind of want to just slow it down a bit, get together because they're people focused. So they like to be around the team, collaborate, get everybody involved, make sure it's going to benefit and be good for everybody. They're most comfortable around people they know. It's those new people, new things, new ideas, new projects that just might make them feel very uncomfortable, right? They like the tried and true. They like what's known to them. And when we're under pressure, we always say all styles become more of who they are under pressure. And my S's just kind of give in. They become too accommodating. Okay, we'll do it that way, right? Because they want to make sure that everybody is happy and everybody's taken care of. They tend to go towards making others happy. And their fear is tied into that steadiness that they really enjoy. And they fear losing stability, right? They want things to remain the way they are, which we all know isn't possible. Change is always around the corner. But for our S's, they really like that sense of security and stability. Anything else that you would add around our S's, Christina?
Yeah, I think, a lot of people that are watching, our webinars, they already have that kind of fundamental about D, I, S, and C. They're pretty familiar with it. And hopefully what you guys are learning from us today is just some kind of tips and how to deliver each of the styles, in a very kind of clear and understandable way. And one of the ways that I like to kind of give S style overviews is, honestly, I say S styles are one of the most challenging styles of the 4 styles to identify. Number one, all styles are, as we say, just simply different. There's no style that's better or worse. And when you look here, we have Sam. He's our S style. The picture is Sam. Sam is more reserved, and Sam happens to be people focused. So being people focused, we think, well, what differentiates Sam from someone who is an I style? Sam likes people, but as Amy said, because he's more reserved, he tends to like people he knows. So, family members, friends. He's more about building rapport and getting to know you and building interactions with you than just about creating a variety of interactions like the I style. He's more reserved, so he likes to move a little bit slower pace. So pacing is a good way to describe the difference between a reserved style and the more active styles. He wants more information. And oftentimes people are like, well, how do I tell an S style from a C style? Because they're both reserved, right? Their energy doesn't sit on the surface. It's hard to read them. So oftentimes I will say, S styles and C styles are the two reserved styles. They sit on the left side of the model. But one kind of tip is, because your S styles tend to be more people focused and amiable, they come across as warmer, whereas your C styles are reserved. And I would say that they come across, because they're more task focused, as cooler. So not to say that it's good or bad, or that one is, it's not cold, it's just simply cooler, and our S styles tend to be warmer. They really are, they really enjoy those interactions, especially familiar interactions and those one-on-one interactions. So yeah, that's what I would add. So kind of in the spirit of how do we identify, and talk about S styles, one of the key things is, how do we interact with them, right? How do we communicate with S styles? So when we're talking about S styles, we have what we call our do this and don't do this. So kind of like do's and don'ts, right? So with the do's, typically do's are just things that may not come naturally to us who aren't S styles. But if we were just to make these brief and oftentimes temporary adjustments, then we would be more effective in motivating that S style to interact and respond to us. So things like, as you heard me say, slow it down. S styles don't like to be pressured or move too quickly. Make sure you, if possible, build that rapport, build that trust. They are your steady eddies, as you heard Amy said. And it's not that S's are unwilling to change. Everyone changes. We just have our own preferred ways of doing it. But the more they trust you, and the more they understand why, or the rationale behind the change, they tend to be more comfortable with it that way. Give them assurance. These are your emotional styles. They may not show their emotions on the surface, but they feel them. Give them reasoning and viewpoints for why you have this opinion. Be very practical in your examples and give them time to process and decide. S styles, they're not just our steady eddies, they're also very stubborn. If you push them and they feel like, that's not how we do things, they will do everything to put those roadblocks in your way to keep you on the straight and narrow, on track. When it comes to do's and don'ts, again, if you think about S styles as essentially having their own language, each style has its own language, and there are certain things that come very naturally and comfortably for us. But if we make some slight adjustments with the S style, don't pressure them for quick action. As an I style, you might be like, oh my gosh, I have these great ideas, and I just need you to, we need to just hop on board, and we need to get running with it. We need to go with it right now. That's probably not a very comfortable approach for your S style colleagues. Don't make sudden changes. They are steady eddies. They like you to lay out very clear instructions and clear examples. Don't fail to deliver on promise. I laugh. You heard me say Amy and I are very familiar with S styles. Well, because we happen, both of us, to be S styles. I always tell people, don't tell me you're going to do something and then not do it. Because if you don't do it after you told me you're going to do it, it will piss me off to no end. In fact, you're better off not telling me you're going to do something if you don't think you're going to do it. Share information with them. That's part of building trust and giving them information to decide. Don't be demanding. They're stubborn, so they will shut down, and you will lose that interaction. And don't only focus on the positive perspective. While positive perspectives work really well with other styles like I styles, S styles, they want to understand not only the positives, but they want to understand the negatives as well. Amy, from your vast personal experience, anything you would add to this?
So I have a practical example, a story that I can share. I reported to someone who was very much that DI on the active side. And she was great in that, not pressuring me for the sudden action or, giving me enough time. And she would kind of just put a timeline on it. Like, well, do you think you could get this to me by the end of the week? Is that doable? Is that something that you feel comfortable with? And it worked wonderful because it gave me that ability to say, no, I don't think with everything else I have going on, I can do that, right? And it gave her that idea and comfort of like, okay, I'm going to get it. I will get it, sooner or later. I got to make sure that she's comfortable, because she knew she would get the best out of me, making me more comfortable with the timeline.
Exactly. Of course,
So
now with our, oh, go ahead, Amy. Go.
I was going to do the same transition. So many of us are working remotely now, right? So what are some ways that we can interact with those S styles when we're communicating with them remotely? And when we think about emails, they are a little bit formal, being on the reserve side, but they're very people focused. So be personable still with them. Get into the details. They like that direction. So they want to be told often what needs to be done next and be given as much details as possible. So don't be afraid to put it in there, but also just kind of maybe ask something personable about them, how they're doing. On the phone, again, make some small talk with them, answer their questions patiently. Most likely follow it up with an email as well, because they're going to want some paper trail to go back to and make sure that they have it right. And again, in virtual meetings, S's are ones that you need to draw out their opinions. They will sit there politely and just smile and nod, and maybe not even engage into the conversation. So you need to make sure there's trust in that environment, draw out their opinions, draw out them to be included and have the opportunity to talk. Because if there isn't that maybe ask of it, they probably won't necessarily speak up and say something. And make sure the pacing is right, slow it down, make sure that they're on board. Because like Christina said, they're stubborn. So if they're not on board, they might not verbally tell you, but boy, oh boy, you'll know.
Yeah, I think with the S styles, when you think about doing a virtual meeting, where you're even just one-on-one or in a group, they're probably not the ones that are going to speak up at the beginning. It's going to take them a little while to warm up. But with S styles too, they're often ones that if you ask them a question, they will answer it. So you have to kind of, maybe for some of us, we have to work a little harder, use a little more energy to bring them in to these virtual meetings, into these conversations. But it's just not from a lack of willingness. It's just their natural comfort level. Anything else that we as S styles would like for people to know, or anything that you as a trainer, Amy, kind of highlight when you're doing DISC workshops and focusing on S styles?
I think just one thing that kind of jumps out at me about both of our reserve styles is sometimes they're the ones that are quiet on the other end of the phone or in the virtual meeting. And oftentimes it's because they're taking notes or they're processing it. And so again, this individual who I reported to, she would also fill in that pause with, I know you're thinking about it right now and formulating your response. I'm like, okay, good, because I forgot to tell you that. But sometimes even as a reserve style, just saying like, just give me a moment to really kind of think about that. Or, you know what, I'm just jotting it down. Hang on a second, right? Just so people know that it's not an awkward silence or awkward pause. Like you are actually thinking and writing and processing what has been said to give a best answer and response back.
Yeah, in fact, your S styles on the phone or in virtual meetings, they're probably nodding their heads, letting you know that they are hearing what you have to say. Not necessarily agreeing, but they're listening to what you have to say, but sometimes we don't see that on the phone, and we may not even see it in a virtual meeting. So thanks, Amy. Hopefully that just gave you kind of just some energizing ways to talk about S styles. We have so much information on S styles, and as well as all the other DIS styles. Join us in our last webinar of 2020. We'll be wrapping it up with C styles, why your message to C styles may not be effective. And that will be on Wednesday, December 16th at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you guys all for joining us. And thank you, Amy, and have a great holiday season and stay safe.
Thanks, Christina. Bye-bye.